what we have now dealing with is Trump laying the predicate for really establishing a dictatorship. I don't really think there's any kind of way to sugarcoat this. And he was letting his generals know they needed to get on board. So this was a dangerous day of escalation for us and for the cities that are, you've already experienced this in California, right? You were the testing ground for them in Los Angeles. So he's already gone just in the last week. They've gone from one city to five cities. And here we go.
And what it's interesting. I mean, you don't use the word dictatorship lightly. I mean, that's a pretty loaded word,
I
isn't
mean,
it?
yeah,
Dictatorship.
but I think we have all been very careful in our language for a long time. And I think that American exceptionalism has sort of made it difficult for us to potentially, to often stare in the face what's really happening here. To call in the generals from all over the world, which people have written has never happened before in modern American history, and then to give us a very partisan speech, letting them know that it was time for them, as he said, that we should be training our military in American cities themselves.
Yeah.
I think that we have to take all this at face value, Governor. Like I think that we're long past the point of discounting his action, his words from what happened, and I think this has been part of a escalation that we have seen now over the last few weeks. Starting with this terrorism declaration where they declared all their domestic opponents, terrorists. And so, we're in it now. I mean, and if there was any doubt that the fight that you began this summer for all of us, where you've made it clear that we needed to fight in a much more aggressive way and challenge their illiberalism and their threat, their undermining of our democracy, which you have become a leader of that fight. We're in it now, and we got to keep going and take all this really seriously.
What'd you make of the timing this week? I mean, the idea that they would do it just hours before, 12 hours before. I mean, is that
Yeah,
coincidental,
no,
or is that very intentional?
I think it was very intentional. I think that, as you know, because you talk about this a lot, Trump has this incredible pathological narcissistic need to feel strong and powerful when he is weak and failing. And he is constantly doing these spectacular things to kind of bolster, to make him feel strong and manly, right? This is sort of it's the central project of the White House these days, is to make this guy whose powers are ebbing, his health is in decline, the government is failing, he's incredibly unpopular. They have to pump him up. And so they keep doing ever more spectacular things to do that, invading cities, Los Angeles, sending the Marines, as you know, right? And now we have this spectacular display. And they were cagey about it, right? Oh, it's just going to be Hegseth. And then they announced that Trump was coming. And of course, the whole point of this always was going to be for Trump to wave his fingers at the generals and tell them to get in line. And so, this is a day of escalation. And I think we have to take all their threats about what they're going to do during shutdown very seriously, about firing mass layoffs and disabling. They've announced they're going to turn off all the economic reporting systems, so no jobs report. All the daily data coming from the federal government that global markets use to assess the health of our economy and the global economy, all of that is being turned off tonight at midnight. They didn't need to do that. That was just another sort of moment of sabotage. And so I think the way I like to talk about this, Governor, is that we're in it now and we need to go fight and win. And certainly that's what you're demonstrating for all of us in California.
Well, I appreciate that. And so, in that respect, drawing that line, or at least standing firm on the line and protecting, preserving those the historic project of our founding fathers. I mean, that starts with standing tall and pushing back against Trump in relationship to this shutdown. So you're on the side clearly that it is the right thing to do for Schumer and Jeffries on behalf of the Democratic Party to stand firm and resolved by midnight tonight, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think healthcare was a good way to get into this. And I think we need to expand our critique and our indictment of Trump to include the tariffs and higher prices and also the threats to democracy. I think we can bolster and strengthen the argument as we get further into this debate. And I also think our leaders in Washington need to take a page out of your playbook. I mean, we need to learn how to operate in the information space far more aggressively than we have, and to learn from you and your amazing team who've been so so innovative and so effective in your communication. Hopefully, we can start to see more of that kind of higher level gear that our leaders need here to be able to use to fight this out with Trump over the coming months.
Did you see that yesterday coming out of the White House? Did you see that when the press conference after the short meeting with the President of the United States? Did you see the embers of a new, more ferocious strategy of communication?
I think we can continue to encourage and suggest, and what you've been doing is leading and giving us the example that we need to follow. And so I think our job, my job here as just a private citizen doing my best, is to continue to give them ideas and to encourage them to find a higher gear and fight harder. I think what we have to realize, and then I want to hear about, your big battle in California, is that to me, we're in the beginning now of the general election in 2026. We're in the battle. We're in the battle we all wanted to have with Trump, and we need to win it. And I don't think this is going to get resolved in the next few weeks or even maybe over the next few months. We're in this titanic fight to talk to the American people about his betrayal, his sabotage, his harming of the economy, these outrageous tariffs, and then to propose our solutions, just like in a general election. And what you've been doing and what I've been writing about at Hopium is the kind of messaging, the ads that you've been doing, talking about Trump and betrayal of his promises and the rising prices and tariffs and the cuts to healthcare and the assault on democracy. Your narrative and framing, I think, is where we all need to get to in the coming weeks. And so I'm really grateful that you and your team continue to lead us in this time of crisis for the country. And so let me turn it on you, which is, how's Yes on 50 going? This is your big battle, and give us the update.
Well, I've been trying to, and I appreciate the frame. Look, I've been trying to battle in this communications question for years now. As you know, I was very frustrated, have been candidly, with the Democratic Party for, frankly, the last decade or so. And it's not an indictment of anyone who's currently in leadership. It's not an indictment of anybody in positions of power or influence. It's just a general recognition that the world has changed dramatically. And there's an asymmetry as it relates to communications. And you're seeing that weaponization from the frame of the right every single night in the primetime lineup at Fox News. You're seeing it on Newsmax, One American News. You're seeing it in all of these blogs. You're seeing it now exposed. It was just Sinclair, which had a consciousness for those of us who understood. They ran and operated 105 local stations. And now you're seeing it with Nexstar. It runs even larger cohort of local stations in relationship to free speech. And Kimmel, we saw it highlighted yesterday with another California company that sold out YouTube, Google, Alphabet, with another capitulation to Trump in his threats. $24.5 million, and 22 million of that fine will go to pay for this big, beautiful ballroom in the White House. It's jaw-dropping. People in power, positions of influence, kissing the ring, selling out, rolling over. In many respects, you saw that on display today. In some respects, it was good. In other respects, it was deeply alarming with Pfizer and the CEO of Pfizer in the Oval Office, that because of threats, capitalism, I guess, or crony capitalism, then he submitted to a new regime as it relates to pharmacy pricing. I was glad, again, to see that, and we have to applaud any reduction in pharmacy prices. But it's the way things are being conducted, and increasingly in plain sight. We saw it with Intel, we see it with NVIDIA, we see it with AMD, MP Materials in my state. We've seen this notion of crony capitalism taken to a whole new level. Threats made now in the open, those threats precipitating in not just settlements with YouTube, we see it with settlements at CBS, Paramount, and issues that occurred to begin with ABC. It's an extraordinary moment that we are living through. And so it marks a moment for me of consciousness over the course of the last number of years, this cumulative need for us to do more and do better and flood the zone and start winning the messaging war, to get back on offense, to shape shift the conversation and not be on the heels. It was 2 years ago it was CRT we were talking about. It was ESG. DEI is sort of prevalent, continues to be over the course of time. But I think it is about time, and I'm very grateful that Schumer and Jeffries now are leading, that we stand firm and stand tall. And that was a long-winded way of responding to you. That's what Prop 50 is all about. It's about fighting fire with fire. It's not just, exercising our moral authority. It's exercising our formal authority. Do what we can, using whatever tools we can to push back, to hold that line and be firm, to be resolute, to be resolved, to be clear, to advance our conviction, to express our conviction. At a time when that is needed. Clarity is needed in this moment. And so I'm very grateful that we've been in a position where we can advance with Proposition 50, a ballot initiative, 35 days away, Election Day, here in California, to push back on redistricting. And I'm grateful again in that frame that leaders in the Democratic Party are doing the same in relationship to Trump with this looming deadline at midnight.
Well, listen, the ballots arrived this week, right? Give us an update on your progress. How do things feel?
Yeah, it's 35 days. The election ends the first Tuesday in November. It begins next week. 30 days when these things drop in the ballot into your box, the ability mailbox to send them back, and that's what it's all about now. Is just a turnout game. What's remarkable is people are tuned in and tuned up into what's at stake. I mean, there's and you can appreciate this as a longtime champion of these initiatives. There's only a few percentage points of undecided. I mean, people are locked in. They know what's at stake. And this was a special election that I called just a few weeks ago. It was a 90-day sprint. Already some 700,000+ individuals have contributed to this campaign on the yes side from all 50 states. People recognize it's not just about California. It is about the fate and future of our republic. And that's what's playing out again in relationship to this government shutdown. But it all is, as you say, about 2026. And I totally agree with you that race has now begun. And in many respects, that starting gun for us is this race here with Proposition 50, where it looks very good, but but polls don't vote, people vote. And so at the end of the day, it's just turning up the energy and making sure in a special election that we turn out the vote. And so I'm grateful to you and your community for raising awareness around this issue and reminding people that all of us are impacted by what happens here in California.
Well, and if I can make a pitch for folks who are watching to volunteer, we have we have almost 20,000 Hopium subscribers in California, and many of them are involved in the phone banks, which are working to get turnout up, right, to make sure we have a strong turnout. And they've been reporting that the calls have been joyous and people are excited to hear from people. And I just want to encourage everybody watching that if you have time to put in a shift or two each week to help drive turnout in California, these calls are some of the easiest calls you're ever going to make because the people receiving them are happy to hear from us, which is not always the case, right, when we do these phone banks. And so there's a lot of enthusiasm, Governor, from the people that I talk to who are working on the ground about the response that they're getting from Democratic voters. And so, I think if we work really hard, we should have the election we all want to have. And I think that everyone also who's watching, who's in California, return the ballot as soon as you can, right? When you return the ballot, you come off the GOTV rolls, we can move on to lower propensity voters, right? So returning the ballot early actually increases turnout and makes it more likely to we win. And so this is a real opportunity for the people of California and all of the country to do something deeply meaningful, with Governor Newsom and his team.
No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate so many people that have volunteered already, people that are doing text banks and phone banks, people that are out there literally on the streets and in town halls all across the state of California. What's wonderful about this, Simon, and I know you appreciate this, and I hope people listening appreciate, is the entire Democratic Party has come on board. There's no faction of the party that's silent here, from President Obama to AOC, Bernie. Everybody recognizes what's at stake, and including, and I appreciate Eric Holder and others that have been champions for independent redistricting, that have been opposed to this kind of partisan gerrymandering. And I think that's a principle I just want to reinforce and remind people of. That's one that is present in Proposition 50. It's temporary, it's transparent, and it's the most democratic redistricting plan that's ever been put forward, because it's the first plan in U.S. history that's ever gone on the ballot. There has never been maps that have been afforded the people themselves to decide. It's usually their representatives, it's folks, and obviously Mar-a-Lago as it relates to what just happened in Texas and Missouri, and what's likely to happen in Indiana and Florida, potentially in Ohio and Utah. But in relationship to this fight, this is the first time ever voters themselves will decide for themselves what those maps look like. So if anyone has any hesitancy, and I recognize there needs for a lot of us to have a permission slip in this space. Again, temporary. We go back to original form after 2030. This is done in response, exclusively in response to what Donald Trump did and what they achieved in Texas. And it's done in a way that also asserts our desire, because it's also on the ballot, to support, from a policy principle, nationwide independent redistricting that only one party, the Democratic Party, is on record of supporting and is actually voted for as it relates to the John Lewis Civil Rights Act. And so, again, on behalf of those Democrats that may still be a little bit concerned about fighting fire with fire, I hope that creates that permission structure that allows you to feel that this is the right thing to do for the right reasons, and it's the smart things to do for the obvious reasons.
Let me ask you one more question, Governor, before we go. Can you update us on the legislation you signed recently? You did a package of bills, including one that would force masking and require masking of law enforcement in California. I also felt that this was a model for the nation and something that we should try to replicate in other states. But just could you explain to us a little bit about what you guys just did a few weeks ago?
Well, I mean, it's just we opened up with this conversation. Just consider the prism to which we see the world out here in California. I mean, the president made it crystal clear what we were saying, and I love that he was very honest and used the pretty chilling words. He said, "The enemy from within, this war from within." He's going to war with the American people. He sent the U.S. military active duty Marines, as you suggested, 700 active duty Marines, not overseas. He sent them to the second largest city in the United States of America. He did so after he federalized 4,000 National Guard, close to 5,000 military on the streets of an American city. The overwhelming majority, with the exception of a couple hundred, were sitting in their armories. Taxpayers spent over $120+ million. A couple hundred are still there in the armories today that maintain their federalized status with the National Guard. As you noted, now we're seeing this not just in DC, we're seeing the activities in the last 48 hours, increased activities in places like Chicago, and obviously what they're trying to do in Portland. And now you've got governors trying to get in the action beyond just Memphis that are pushing back, but governors like Landry in Louisiana. Here's militarizing the streets of America. And he's talking about using the military in the American cities all across this country, dominantly blue cities, as training grounds for the military. It is illegal. And by the way, it's not my words, federal decision. We filed a lawsuit. We won on the Posse Comitatus case. You cannot use Marines or active duty military, period, full stop, for domestic police purposes. And that suit, we think, will be very resonant as it relates to the work that COTEC will do and the lawsuit they just filed, which we've collaborated with up in Oregon, and whatever JB needs to do in the state of Illinois. But meanwhile, we have real chill. And that's not just the military, but it's the military in concert with ICE, roaming the streets all across this country. And in our state, we have seen that state of chaos that has led to people not going to the community clinic to get a shot, not going to school, not going to graduations or funerals, not even go to the grocery store because people are scared to death that they may be taken, disappear, with people jumping out of unmarked cars with no marks as it relates to their own status, and with masks. And so on the issue of masking, it has created more fear, more distrust. It has created an environment that is actually hurting our regular policing activities, where people are less likely to engage, that is building more distrust and less partnership with all diverse communities. And so we were the first state in the country to ban those masks and to require that, as we do for every local law enforcement agency, that we require basic information to be on people's uniforms. And they actually have to have a badge number, and they have to tell us who they work for. They work for all of us, but which agency as it relates to their activities. A simple requirement, and it goes in effect in January, and we hope to see other states follow suit.
Well, I do think, if I can just make one comment, and I think one of the things that's been most amazing to me about watching all of this, and I live in another occupied city, Washington, D.C., is that you see these guys in full military gear from DHS putting police now. This is now becoming common that it says police on the front, and yet they're not police, right? I mean, it's deceptive and dishonest at its core. And it gets to the dishonesty and the deception of the project, which is they are coming out against us as opposed to working with us as a country. This is what you said earlier, I think, is the right language to describe this, which is they are governing against us as opposed to with us or for us. And it is, as an American, these are hard things to believe, that these are so antithetical to everything this country was founded for and founded around, and that we've governed for 250 years. But we're in this fight now. And Governor, I know you got to go. Just want to say that I'm just so grateful. First of all, I'm grateful for our friendship that goes all the way back to 2003. I was a proud supporter of your mayor's race the first time when you won back then.
Kids, we were children back then. My gosh.
We were. You still have great hair, and I still have enough here, I think. But also just so grateful in this time of crisis for the country, how you've stepped up and led. And just as an old friend of yours, I'm just really proud of you and just incredibly grateful as an American for your patriotism, love of country, your grit and your fight. And just keep going, brother. We need you out there.
I appreciate it, Simon. And I cannot impress upon people more. This is, I keep saying it, blinking red lights everywhere. And that's why Schumer and Jeffries are right to be doing what they're doing. It is time to be firm and resolute. It is time to stand strong and use all the levers of power we possibly can. At peril, this whole thing goes away. I mean, you just look at the last week as we began talking earlier today, what's happened even hours ago. I mean, these are quite literally the very abuses. You talk about the founding fathers. These are the very abuses that led them to write the Declaration of Independence in the first place. Go back and read those 27 grievances and consider the moment we're living through today. You referenced tariffs. I mean, that's among many of those listed grievances. It's here. This is real. This is the moment. And so we've got to fight fire with fire. That's what Prop 50 is about. And thank you, everybody, for doing that. But we also have to stand tall. And I'm grateful for our national leaders to do it. And we have to have their back. And we have to be here for the long haul, for each other. This is not a situational battle around the government shutdown. This is the battle for the soul of this country, the future of our country, this republic. It's hanging in the balance. This guy is rolling over people. It's the rule of dawn, not the rule of law. And it could be the dawn of a new era if we continue to fight the fight, because in closing, Simon, what I appreciate about you, and thank you for those kind words, is the words you put forth every single day, this frame of hope and hopium, this notion that we need to be reminded that we're also on the right side, that he is, as you suggest, weakness masquerading as strength. We are on the right side. We will win as long as we don't lose faith. We will win as long as we don't give in to the cynicism and all of the fear that he's trying to instill every single day. And so thank you for daily reminding us of that. And thank you for reminding all of us that we have agency and we can shape the future. And so that's my point of emphasis, is a point of optimism about our fate and future. It's because people haven't given in to that cynicism yet. They're showing up. This No King's Day is going to be a big damn deal. And obviously what Schumer and Jeffries doing is a big deal as well. So thank you again for everything you're doing, this platform. And thank you for continue to distill a sense of well-being at a time when we need it most.
Governor, thank you. And, hopefully I can come see you. My daughter's now a student at USC. And so maybe I can drop by and see you when I'm visiting her. But keep up the great work. Thank you for your fight. And everybody, let's go win this thing. We got to win the fall together. Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Thank you.